Hello, it's good to be with you. What I'm going to share with you are extracts from the journal I've been keeping through lockdown, and particularly some writing I did during 8 weeks I spent in Leeds caring for my mum, who's in her 80s and who has some serious health issues. I hope it will stimulate reflection on both pastoral and theological themes. I love my mum Hazel. She's a feisty, radical, political woman. This is the sign she's placed in a window from the start of the pandemic. A Methodist local preacher for over 50 years, she's also publicly and bravely owned her own struggles with depression from the pulpit and elsewhere. The first journal entry is from Easter Day. I've selected some others from the 2 months on a fairly random basis, and there are images to accompany the words. Easter morning early. On Good Friday, I slept in my mum's bed for the first time in over 50 years. She couldn't sleep. She was in pain, and so I held her. All the resolutions I made about trying to maintain some physical distance between us for the first few days, just in case, were impossible to keep. But I felt so guilty about the potentially dangerous comfort I was giving as I wrapped my arms around her. Last night, she did not call for me. I lay awake listening for hours and thought I heard her a couple of times, but when I went to her room, she was sleeping deeply. Now it's Easter. I'm sitting in bed, drinking tea and writing this. Anxiety and exhaustion have opened up a white space in my mind, not consciousness as I know it. I have no feeling of faith, hope or love. I'm not putting coping mechanisms into play. I'm not thinking of things I want to do or should be doing. I feel empty, blank, absent. And this is Easter Day. Easter afternoon. So I switched off the service on Radio 4. I did not Zoom with my home congregation or join in the recorded Christ the Lord is risen today on Songs of Praise. I don't want last year's Easter. It's different this time. I went out, first to my mum's church. Recently they decided to redesign the porch so that the building would not present a blank front and appear to be closed all the time to those walking past. Now you can see in, and you would think that you might be able to go in too, but you can't. Really, it's locked. I sat on the steps for a long time outside, waiting. That seemed right. The Anglican church across the road is definitely locked and barred. It's Easter, and I'm spending the day outside locked churches. Virginia Woolf, commenting on women's exclusion from academic life, said, "Maybe it's better to be locked out of the library than locked in." Maybe the same now applies to church. But perhaps also, Easter is about standing on a threshold you can't cross and looking into darkness and not being at all sure what it is you see. Thursday, 16th of April. I failed. Forgot all about the place of chocolate and Easter celebrations. We made up today, Chocolate Fest, and Hazel arranged her table. I helped her take down the remnants from Christmas still on the tree, except the angels, which she insists belong to all seasons, as do the family photos. She arranged the chickens, baby rabbits, and Blossom. I found it all very comforting, satisfying. There was a virtual coffee morning at church today, and I'd set up the Zoom. Hazel smiled at the other people, waved, but did not speak directly unless addressed, although she's known some of these folks for half a century or more. She doesn't seem enthusiastic to try this again. I'll keep encouraging, but I'm not surprised about this. I couldn't bear it when I was in Glasgow, fearful of what she'd be going through, seeing all those cheery snippets of seniors speaking with their families on iPads, hearing all the well-meaning nonsense about stay in touch when you cannot touch. No, this virtual thing does not work well for Hazel. In her isolation, there were dolls and toys, gifts to her from people she loves, soft things to touch and hold. I find this both heart-wrenchingly poignant and beautiful. These objects are animate with a presence that is familial and sacred to her. Tuesday, 21st of April. Feeling sorry for myself. Been here over a week and it's sometimes very difficult. Small flat, you can't get internet except in the lounge where I have to compete with the telly, or in the kitchen, which is now my office. Got back pain from sitting on high stool at the work surface, and everything needs to be shifted for cooking or to empty the washing machine. I'm trying to supervise doctoral students from here, which is crazy, and I miss my partner and daughter in Glasgow, and I'm scared all the time, and I want my world back. Bloody virus, stupid government, bloody stupid stupidness. And as to faith, well, I have a skin infection and it won't get better. I've been prescribed 3 different types of cream. Lots of people have these things. Sore mouths, styes, eczema, the doctor says. Stress. So I can't wear my glasses now. Can wear my looser 3-year-old glasses, which luckily I brought with me. But then I get a headache, and working in laptop world with a headache is rubbish, and so I'm pissed off. But I am doing Zumba dancing online. I have to do it in the kitchen with the door open, so I can career out into the hall if I need to. Dancing in a space of about 3 meters by 1.5 meters. Can't really swing my arms, but I enjoy it. No, I love it. And it's better online. I can do all the steps, but I do tend to move in the opposite direction to everyone else in the class. So being alone with the video off has its advantages. Rainy, my partner, found a poster in a skip and he took a picture of it and sent it to me. My kitchen is for dancing. Yes, for dancing. All the right steps, but completely the wrong way. Wednesday, 29th of April. I love walking around here. It's only 10 minutes to Randy Park and you don't need to stay on the paths or make neat circles around the lake. There are woods and gorges and the empty golf course. I love this place. Like everyone else in Leeds, I came courting here quite a few times with quite a few people. When I walk here, it's like walking right back into my past life. You can take the girl out of Leeds, but I grew up next to a lovely wood, and I use my memories of this to shape the spiritual journey I record in my book, Not Eden. It was a bluebell wood. Bluebells are on the cover of the book. They are my favourite flower. The scent is overwhelming this time of year. This must have been one of the most beautiful early summers I have ever known. I stood under a copper beech tree today, and I felt as if I were in a cathedral whose roof was flaming with glory. In the depths of the wood, there's a holy greenness all around me. But this is so hard. The beauty is remorseless. It bears down on you. It acknowledges no consequences to suffering. It seeks no healing. It's not ashamed. I sometimes feel very angry at the careless disregard for our pain in all this relentless loveliness. Friday, 8th of May. I feel ashamed. I've been here for nearly a month already and feel that only now I've started to get a grip on things. I had no energy for anything apart from being with Hazel at first, and then only the most absolutely pressing work demands. Little things are changing. I made myself real coffee in a cafetiere in week 3. All those days of instant coffee. Actually, I quite like instant coffee, but that's not the point. Then I started to FaceTime with Rainier instead of phoning, and that made everything better. Absolutely transformed my mornings to drink real coffee with him and talk. And I moved the router from the lounge to Hazel's phone point, and so now I have internet in my room. Praise God, praise God, praise God. And I also have a fold-up desk, which fits in the tiny space between the door and my bed. The desk is a gift from the church here. I was bitter about the church at first. Thought my mum had been let down after all her years of commitment, alone in her home, self-isolate those awful words. But this wasn't fair. It was just that what was on offer and what she could access didn't even nearly come together. And the minister has 3 churches, and they were new, kind, concerned, but way overstretched. And what could they do anyway, other than phone every so often and send out notes? I don't know. Her friends call sometimes, but many are also elderly, and they have their own struggles. Anyway, but when they appealed for the lend of a desk, a small desk that could fold away, I was offered 7, bless them. The one I took in the end was lent to me by the man who trained me as a preacher way back in the day. I was 21 when I was commissioned, so a long time ago. He's wise and perceptive. I told him I was writing stuff for my new book, and that pleased him, although I'm not sure he would like what I'm writing. But I'm excited by it. Right now, I'm constructing an extended meditation on a work by Francis Bacon. I encountered this at the Scottish Gallery of Modern Art a few years ago. It's haunted me ever since. It's his Magdalene, the first picture he painted with his famous screaming mouth. It was 1945, the horror. Years later in interviews, he often talked about where this vision of the Magdalene's cry came from. He named loads of sources, but 3 stand out. The first is from a painting by Poussin from 1628, The Slaughter of the Innocents. A mother's mouth wide open in agony and protest. He called it the best human crime painting. The second is an image from Eisenstein's great revolutionary film, The Battleship Potemkin, which I first saw in a student occupation. A woman watches in open-mouthed horror as a pram with a baby in gradually gathers speed as it tumbles down the Odessa steps towards the malicious firing line. The third was from a book of diseases of the mouth he picked up in Paris. Through Bacon, I'm imagining the kind of theology that might emerge from all this. I hope that we'll combine our sources in the way he did. Look to the way that suffering is witnessed to in our sacred narratives. Consider our own role as those who cry out when we see disasters coming. Root ourselves in the bodily reality of our world at the moment. Not just the virus, but the poverty, inequality, and injustice that bodies bear, and the environmental crisis that continues. I'm seeking theology that is a cry, a wide, open-mouthed cry. Sunday, May 16th. My room is the place where my mum stores boxes of old photos, notebooks, old greeting cards, memories. In odd hours, looking through these, found some notes my mum made when my sister asked her to write something about breastfeeding for a book she was doing on midwifery. The intimate relation. Your breasts are heavy. You pick up your baby. She looks. People like me who suffer from anxiety sometimes have a strange, almost mystical experience. I've talked about it to others, so I know I'm not alone here. It happens for me only at the pitch point of intensity, when I feel so overwhelmed I can't ride the crashing emotional waves anymore. Something lets go, and I feel utterly at peace and beyond calm. The feeling always lasts several hours. I'm quiet now before my God, like a child that has been nursed at the breast. My begging has been stilled. This room used to seem so small to me. It has become a world. I've added to the pictures on the shelf, images I've found of people whose chain I belong in. These days the seasons are out of sort. My grandmother is young, and not with my granddad. Who is this man? My 26-year-old daughter is 2 and offering me tea from a red pot. I hold my sister on the slide at Army Park, and my husband smiles at me from before we were married. Something precious in these times. A communion established, restored in the most basic of all relations. My mum and I watched Dad's Army together. I'm a feminist, but I love Dad's Army. I cut her beautiful nails and polish them. I offer her tea from a red pot.